VikesNow, Dustin Baker. We're going to go through Commanders Vikings items, or as I call them, storylines. The Vikings can get to 7-1 for the first. Doesn't seem unreal. Say it out loud sometimes when you had back-to-back seasons of trashy, ho-hum, mediocre football. Yes, the Vikings can get to 7-1. They're going up against a upstart 4-4 Commanders team led by Taylor Heineke, who doesn't quite enter my storylines, although he's probably on your mind because he was a preseason-ish quarterback for the Vikings before he did stupid shit and had to leave, exit stage left. But yeah, that's where we're at. The Commanders have won 3 in a row. Thankfully, they beat the Packers for us. That was glorious. But let's hop into the 8 big things that you can watch for on Sunday at noon Central Time. The first one, and these are in no order of importance per usual, the first one is James Lynch, the defensive lineman for the Vikings. Why does he matter? Well, unless something very fundamental changes, it doesn't seem like Dalvin Tomlinson is trending to play. He's going to miss his first game as a member of the Vikings, I think, unless he has a humongous about face and decides to play. And that would, for the most part, I'm sure they'll use a little bit of a committee, nominate James Lynch as the next man up. And he has quietly already gotten 112 defensive snaps so far through 7 games of 2022, which is noteworthy. He's kind of a go-to guy in a rotation when they're switching folks out up front. And so far, he has the mark of the beast, PFF rating 66.6. And I know a lot of you have liked Lynch for 2 or 3 seasons now, and this might be his chance to start with Tomlinson out of the way, at least for hopefully only a week. But let's see how he responds to the bright lights of a noon game in Week 9. James Lynch is my first one to watch. I want to see, he usually, when given an opportunity, gets in there and plays tenaciously, gets a sack or something like that. And against a Washington offensive line that isn't known for being world beaters, I want to see if Lynch is a reasonable, proficient, productive substitute for Dalvin Tomlinson, who I don't think will play. Now, you'll probably see that Tonga guy who's somehow on the active roster, and maybe a little bit of the Gophers dude, Asazi. We shall see. But I think my personal prediction or opinion is that it'll be the James Lynch show if Dalvin Tomlinson can't go. So let's see how he performs as, given the nod to start. The next one, I said I wasn't going to bring up Taylor Heineke because it's quite evident that he used to play for the Vikings, but I will talk about the other quarterback, and that's Kirk Cousins, because indeed he goes back to Washington as a visitor for the first time in his career. And when it's Sunday night and everything's in the rear view, in terms of NFC opponents, the only visiting stadium that he wouldn't have been to as a visitor is at Minnesota. And who knows how long he'll stay with the Vikings, but if he ever does venture to, like the Bucks or the Panthers or something, coming to Minnesota would complete his round trip of all NFC opponents' houses. I digress, but here's what I want to know. Do we see the garden variety Kirk, who's pretty good, maybe gets 2 touchdowns, 240 yards, a Vikings dub? Or do we get the revenge-minded Cousins, which, athletes usually use this stuff as motivation? And it's not like Cousins just left there because he was ready to be done. There was quite a bit of controversy in 2016 and 2017 because Washington, and it's now embattled ownership, franchised him back-to-back seasons and then, put their money where their mouth is or lack thereof and just let him walk to free agency. That's how he got to this team right over here. So if there was going to be a revenge factor game, Cousins should have that on his plate. He should say, these assholes didn't want me. I'm going to go out there and score 4 touchdowns and 380 yards, and we're going to spank these bastards 41-5. He should do that. That should be his mentality. But with his dad persona, his nice guy, he wouldn't even say anything bad about Mike Zimmer when interviewed this summer, and they actually said Zimmer was very good to him and good for his growth and development. And even this week, I think NBC Sports caught up with him and asked him about the idea of a revenge game, and he just kind of says, like, oh, shucks, I loved Washington. I loved every minute of it. All the memories I have there were fantabulous. So maybe with his faith and everything, he just doesn't have revenge on the brain. But athletes usually do. We asked Santana Moss, you probably listened yesterday about it, and he's like, oh, yeah, he's circling that game. So I want to know if we get usual garden variety Kirk, who's pretty damn good, or we get, ultra-violent Kirk, who goes off and sticks it to his team, even though he didn't really have a grand lead-up verbally about wanting to do so. So, which version of Kirk? Because it is Kirk-Vember. Statistically, throughout his career, bar none, this is the best month of his tenure anywhere, even Washington and Minnesota. When the calendar flips to November, the very, very good, almost elite version Cousins turns on the faucet, and boom, it usually ends up in W's. Number 3 is this defense. The Vikings defense is on a roll. Does it keep up? It should. The Commanders are not very good on offense. They didn't get much better when Heineke came in for Wentz, even though they started winning. Kudos to them. But on the whole, the Commanders' offense per DVOA, the Football Outsiders metric, ranks 30th, which is third worst in the NFL. 28th in passing offense, 30th in rushing offense. So they're one of the worst offensive teams that the Vikings will have seen past last 7 games and going forward. So if there was ever a game for a defense to keep rolling, one that's gotten markedly better in the last 3 weeks, the time is now. Taylor Heineke, I say this every time I'm asked about him. I swear to God, I watch games of his, and for the first 3 quarters, I'm like, God, this guy sucks. I don't know why people think he's the one that got away. And then in the fourth quarter, he shows some heroism, some grit, and finds a way to either make it close or get the job done, or throws a game-sealing interception. So I get it. He's fun, but he's really not that good. So the Vikings should be able to stomp on his neck. And I tweeted this yesterday. Per EPA per play, the Ben Baldwin metric, the proficiency metric, in weeks 1 through 4, the Vikings defense ranked 23rd in the NFL, and in the last 3 games against the Bears, Dolphins, and Cardinals, it's now the 8th best. So it's getting better. If it feels like the Vikings defense has become better in the last 3 games, it has, by the numbers and per your eye test. It should continue to roll because Washington's offense isn't too deadly. The next one is Justin Jefferson touchdown drought. It's very odd that Minnesota employs probably the second best wide receiver next to Tyreek Hill. I'm not sure where he falls on your pecking order. He's got to be 1 or 2 or 3 if you must. This is a touchdown drought end. He hasn't scored a touchdown since week 1, at least a receiving touchdown. He had that fancy rushing touchdown, but that is weird. There's no other way to dress it up. It's weird that Justin Jefferson hasn't scored a receiving touchdown since week 1. He's too good to stay out of the end zone. I know that he gets a bunch of attention, double coverage even at times, but he needs to get in that spot, score 6 points. That's what he does. And if he doesn't score touchdowns, he's going to be one of those dudes that's not quite respected as he should, because throughout history there's a litany of guys. The only one that got away with it was Julio Jones. Always considered top 2 wide receiver, but didn't really score touchdowns. Jefferson, you don't want to be that guy. You want to have your 10 touchdowns per season and, the 1,800 receiving yards he's on pace to accrue. So I don't think that he's inept or incapable of getting off the schneid, but we should be sitting on a Jefferson game of multiple touchdowns, and then the momentum keeps going, this week and then at the Bills and then against the Cowboys he scores. That's how good he is, but right now it's 2 lonesome receiving touchdowns he's due. Broadly speaking, number 5 is... So I assume the Vikings are going to win this game. I think I said that to Josh Fry on Wednesday's episode, so get me down for that. I actually have them in a convincing win, an ass beating. I think I had 41-17. I just think they're due to beat the piss out of somebody, and this has got to be it. Washington isn't very good, at least talent-wise. Their coach is pretty decent, Ron Rivera. But here's the broad point. I want to know if this is another one-score game. That's all we get is suspenseful roller coaster squeakers, 1-score games, or a blowout, or somewhere in the middle, like 30-17. it's finally by more than one score. Is this one going to be ultra? Is it going to be another thriller? Like every Vikings game outside of the first 2 weeks feels like a playoff game in terms of the vibes throughout the game. Not going into it, playing Skylar Thompson wasn't some big playoff atmosphere, but in the middle of the game and in the fourth quarter, you're gripping your seat, you're gripping your kneecaps, and it's damn suspenseful. So if indeed the Vikings win, I might be getting complacent here. Is it one score? Is it a blowout? Or is it right in the damn middle? We'd like a blowout. We'll take anything. I'll just put it that way. I'll stop while I'm ahead. The next one, I got a couple more, is Hawkinson Mania. I tweeted this morning that Hawkinson will be the Vikings' first tight end who was drafted in the first round to play in a Vikings game since 1967. That guy was named Marlon McKeever, and it's been, what do we got there? 55 years since a dude drafted in the first round at tight end stepped on a Vikings football field with horns on his helmet. That's quite wild, isn't it? Well, Hawkinson changes that Sunday. They acquired him for essentially a pick swap or a pick drop in the next 2 drafts. And we want to see what this guy's got. Most of us haven't seen a tight end this good ever on the Vikings. Kyle Rudolph is pretty awesome in his own regard, but he isn't quite as dynamic as Hawkinson already is and his upside suggests. I kid you not. This is not a hot take. I think this is common sense. If Travis Kelce tore his ACL, he's out, and somehow the Chiefs instead got Hawkinson, I don't think there would be a significant drop whatsoever in the stats that would pour out of the tight end position in Kansas City. So what does that mean? Not quite Travis Kelce, I get it. But in terms of his skill set and if utilized properly, he can be that Kelce type, Mark Andrews type that, hits 1,000, 1,200 yards every year. Now, with Justin Jefferson and Thielen and Osborne, all these mouths to feed, it probably ain't going to happen with this brand of Vikings. But Hawkinson is that good, what was it, 8th or 9th pick by the Lions in 2019. He'll get his first crack at winning football on Sunday, and I want to know how much the Vikings use him. That was my long setup lead up there is, does he get 5 targets? Does he get 10 targets? Does he only get 2 because he doesn't know shit about the offense yet? But you should be on Hawkinson watch because they paid a relatively steep price to get him, or at least a splashy headline-breaking price to get Hawkinson because nobody saw that coming. So what does the new guy do? We're going to call him the logo. Somebody on Twitter said he looks like the actual Norseman at the 50-yard line at the Viking Stadium. And yes, I'm going to call him the logo from now on. It sounds fine to me. Winding down the show, the next one is Ed Ingram. We actually sang his praises for the first, 3 games of the season because he looked like, this guy's going to be pretty good. Well, he's started doing the rookie stuff where he's had some clunkers, some stinkers, got dominated at times by J.J. Watt last week. And here's the deal. I certainly don't support benching Ingram. I don't think that'd be good for his development. I don't think his struggles are that horrendous where you have to look at another option. After all, through 8 weeks per Pro Football Focus, the Vikings offensive line ranks 10th out of 32 in the NFL. And if we would have had this show at all in the past 6 years, we'll just be like, shut up, we'll take it. Don't change anything. Leave Ingram in there, he's fine. But now we're getting greedy because you start to look at things that a 6-1 team could do better. And Ed Ingram's occasional struggles are something you can laser point to and be like, yeah, I don't know if he's trustable for a playoff push. So you have to decide as a fan, do you want to have him take his lumps as a rookie to get ready for here on out in years 2, 3, 4, 5, blah, blah, blah? Or would you want to pivot to Chris Reed? We know Chris Reed is a very good guard, somehow isn't being used by the Vikings because he's not needed. There was a time where he would have been clamored for and been like, get this guy in. He's 18 times better than Drew Samia. But with Ed Ingram, second-round pick, Reed isn't necessarily an option because I don't think they're going to throw in the towel on Ingram's rookie season. But in terms of if Ingram got hurt or if the struggles got bad, at what point do you have a look at Chris Reed? Because he's not just some Dakota Dozier that's a revolving door. Chris Reed's pretty good, and the tape suggests so. He's a journeyman, but in the Colts, Colts fans were sad to see him go, and that's always a good sign for the next team. So, of course, keep an eye on Ingram. How does he bounce back? Does he look good? Or do the struggles persist? And then you'll start whispers for Chris Reed because we know he's a bona fide backup. Finally, the last thing that I have. I'm trying to figure out the best way to put this in the words because it's going to make me sound like I'm planning for a loss. I've already declared now twice. I'll make it a third time. I believe the Vikings will win convincingly over the Commanders. But this talking point is just to give you context. Washington is 4-4. They're at their stadium. In theory, if the Vikings lose this game, it'll ruin your Sunday. It'll probably dampen your attitude on the team. But I swear to God, it is not a doomsday scenario if the Vikings lose. Why do I say that? They've already got a 6-1 cushion, a 3.5 game lead on Green Bay, plus a tiebreaker on top of that. If the Vikings end up losing one of these close games or get their asses beat by Washington, the sun will rise. The season isn't kaput. It would be a humbling experience to get ready for probably another humbling experience against Buffalo. The reason I'm saying this in general is that they have so many wins out of the gate. I don't know if you call them unforeseen, but they've just, in London, against the Packers, then the Dolphins, then the Cardinals, that they can afford to lose a game, especially an NFC that is not very ferocious. So, in the event that the Vikings somehow lost, I'm telling you on the Friday before, it's not the end of the world. They're on the road. That will have meant that they lost to a 5-4 Washington team that's evidently eyeing a playoff berth with Ron Rivera at the helm. So I do not think the Vikings will lose. If they do, however, that doesn't mean everything's for shit. It just means that they went on the road and they beat an evidently pretty good football team that has a decent defense. And that's all 8. And then the other thing, just keep an eye on any injuries. That damn field is notorious for nasty injuries. And it's the last thing we need out of anybody, or especially a big-name player, is that, the turf monster, grass monster, whatever it is, at FedEx Field ended so-and-so's season. Would not be a fan. All right, here's what I usually say at moments like these. I'll be back on Monday to talk about the 7-1 Vikings or the 6-2 Vikings. We shall see what brand of that it is on Monday afternoon. Skol, baby.